core values in the military, regardless of what branch you're in, are invaluable to me as a professional, but especially as an entrepreneur. Things like loyalty, duty, respect, honor, integrity, self-sacrifice, personal courage, to name a few, leadership. I think I just went down the Army values, right? They spell out leadership. Not stopping until the job's done.
Welcome to the In Factor, conversations with entrepreneurs who started, stumbled, and succeeded. I'm Rebecca White, and I'm very excited today to have Dan Kiger with me. Dan is one of my students at the University of Tampa, soon to graduate. He's former military, and he has started a very interesting company called Verum Legend. So, Dan, thank you for joining me today, and really excited to have you on the show.
No, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the invite. I really appreciate it, and I really, really look forward to talking about my venture.
Yeah. So, tell us a little bit about Verum Legend, and what does that mean? It's a Latin word, right? Verum means true, I think you said.
Correct. So the origins of the company, like you said, I'm a military veteran. I was in the Army. I had my fun in Iraq and Afghanistan, like so many others. And when things started winding down in Iraq and particularly Afghanistan, many things came to the surface, I guess you could say, of certain decisions by leadership that weren't very good, particularly the withdrawal, the manner in which we withdrew from Afghanistan. And having been there a few times and knowing all the blood, sweat, and tears and people who died serving in that conflict, and all conflicts in general, this really hit home with me. And I thought, well, what would be a great way to take my frustrations and emotions and turn it to something positive, to a company, an apparel company that honors those who died in service for others, right? So that's the genesis. There are many apparel companies that are patriotic, that have patriotic themes, but we set ourselves apart by honoring individual veterans, right? We, much like you see the metal bracelets that have the name when someone was born, when they died in service, their branch, their rank, etc. Well, we take the same thing but put it on a shirt with name, rank, decorations, the unit they were a part of, the rank they had when they perished. So that's a snapshot of what we do.
Wow, I think that's such a great story, and of course, I learned about your company and your concept in the classes that I taught at the university. And it's interesting. You said you had your fun in Afghanistan. I'm not sure I've ever heard it described as fun, but I know it was a learning experience for sure, serving in the military. And that's great that you've been able to turn your frustration with some of the things that have happened, especially the senseless deaths of people, into something meaningful. So I'm really, really impressed with what you're doing. So tell me a little bit about let's go back a little bit, because I always love to kind of find out. I know you spent time in the military, but I also know that you're a fellow West Virginian. I grew up in West Virginia also. So talk
Yes.
to us a little bit about your background. Where are you from? And sort of bring us up to date. And maybe even more importantly for this podcast, did you have role models who were entrepreneurs, or are you kind of a first generation entrepreneur in your family and among your tribe, so to speak?
Yeah, well, no, that's great. True. So yes, right when I knew you were from West Virginia, I knew we would have instant rapport without question. I knew that. Yeah, I grew up in a small town outside of Charleston, West Virginia, a little town called St. Albans.
They're all
I believe
small in West
under,
Virginia, right?
yeah, exactly. That's redundant. A small town in West Virginia. So yeah, I grew up there. Spent my whole childhood in West Virginia, same town, same neighborhood, same house. Didn't move around. I kind of had an ideal upbringing. Didn't have to lock our doors growing up. I could walk into friends' houses unannounced. Had a ton of friends where I grew up. I grew up playing sports. I grew up in a family where service and faith was very important, as I'm sure you can understand. Growing up in West Virginia, that's something people rely on a lot: service to others and community and faith. So it was a natural thing for me to be pulled towards service and putting others and other things above myself. So I continued on in school with sports and found myself in college in a small Catholic college in Pennsylvania called St. Vincent College. I initially went there to play soccer. I hurt my foot. I did not, but I continued on with school there. I studied abroad overseas. I played a little bit of soccer in South America while I was there, and that kind of opened my perspective of the world, right? I think you only learn more when you open yourself up to different situations. So that really, I guess you could say that really kind of chartered my path into being in different cultures, different countries, throwing myself into that world. So I remember I was living in Italy when 9/11 happened. I had just arrived in Rome, Italy. I was studying there my junior year for college, junior year abroad. And I want to say within a week or two from arriving, 9/11 happened. And at the time, I had an older brother who was in the military serving in the Marine Corps. And that was a very uncertain time, if you remember, for the world, not just Americans. And being a young 20-year-old, I wanted to serve my country. And I was like, wow, we were attacked, so I want to get these people who attacked us. It was a pretty simple thought process, right? I'm young. I'm a male. I'm supposed to serve. People in my family have served. I heard all the stories from my father who was in Vietnam. He had uncles in World War II. I want to say he had a great uncle in World War I. So service was normal and natural kind of progression for me. At the time, I didn't think I would ever join the military before then, because I was sort of a free spirit. And I had a chance to go to the Naval Academy for soccer, but I realized, the 17-year-old Dan realized, wait a second, when I'm done at the Naval Academy, I have to spend 5 years in the Navy? That's way too long. That's insane. So what did I do? I finished normal college, right? And then I enlisted in the Army for 5 years. So that is kind of how I found myself in my first formative professional experience in life, going in the military because of 9/11. I wanted to help in the effort to go after the people who killed a lot of innocent people in that day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting in that story, as somebody who also grew up in West Virginia and also um, did a study abroad. It really changed my perspective, and it's something I recommended to my children. And as we both know, growing up in small rural towns, there's always this. I think there's always this kind of idea that there's something bigger out there to find and
Yeah.
explore. So I
Yeah.
understand your path. As far as making this decision to be an entrepreneur, now you spent a number of years in the military, and
Mm-hmm.
now you're working are you working in an industry related to, you're doing your business as a side hustle, right? And you're working.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct. I'm doing that as a side hustle. I do project management as my full-time job. But like with all entrepreneurs, you want your side hustle to become your full-time hustle,
sure.
right? To be where you throw all your chips. So I'm working towards that.
Yeah, and talking with a lot of entrepreneurs, and I think you may have heard some of the podcasts that I've done in the past, but I'm seeing a lot of people go that route of a side hustle. And it makes a lot of sense, and especially as a way to survive financially and to test
Mhm.
your product and to test your market. So you made the decision to go through a graduate program, so I'm curious, did the graduate program prompt this concept, or was the concept what drove you to the graduate program?
Well, that's a great question. Without even knowing it, really, I've had an entrepreneurial spirit in the back of my head. Like from the time I was little, I liked creating things. I was always into I was into like sports cards, so I always wanted to trade and come up with negotiations and deals for better sports memorabilia and trying to bargain. So I always had that combined with creativity, and I didn't really put two and two together that there are many similar. Like I had many of the traits of an entrepreneur growing up and as I was younger, but I didn't really have tangible or close proximity examples, maybe in my family or close friends who were entrepreneurs. Maybe a couple, but it took me some time, right? As you grow up and learn, stumble, get up, walk, crawl, fall down, and you're like, well, if I want to do this, these are the steps I have to take. And I firmly believe in following a path of meaning, right? And during and after the military, I thought to myself, well, you don't know what tomorrow brings, right? So you have to get on the horse and see what happens, right? If you want to do something, do it. And it's hard to get knocked off the ladder if you don't even take the first step on the ladder. And from, the program, I saw the program, one, the military is helping me pay for the program, right? Through benefits earned from service. So that's a no-brainer, right? Free or near free education is a no-brainer. But also, I looked across the landscape of opportunities and education while I still had to maintain that full-time job, and thought this program is a wonderful way to have a repeatable process and get the scaffolding or infrastructure, of any business I want to create. And on top of that, have the network of people like yourself and people that the school brings in, and just use that full force as much as I can to better refine my product, my processes, etc.
Yeah. It's interesting because I was just having this conversation with one of the other faculty members yesterday, and there really is a repeatable process. Every
Mm-hmm.
every entrepreneurial venture is different, but over the years, as I've coached, mentored, taught entrepreneurs, it's even crystallized more for me how the problems are all the same, and the process can be applied regardless of your industry and what you're trying to accomplish. So I think it's really interesting, and I'm pleased that you took that approach. I know you're nearing the end of your program, and I'm just, I'm curious, as you think about launching this product, what have been some of the the challenges, and kind of where are you in this process? I know you and I are actually working on a product for me, for my husband and his father, and that's right. He can't hear this podcast, right? Um,
Yeah.
it's a surprise, but it's he never listens to my podcast anyway, so. But what's the how's this working for you? I mean, what's the how's it? What have been some of the opportunities and what have been some of the challenges that you've been running into?
Well, I mean, more honestly, more. It's I've found in my life in general how you frame problems and how you frame things is key. So you've said challenges and opportunities, and I try to look at the challenges and barriers I've had in growing this company as not so much this is a problem I have to solve, but yeah, this is a problem I have to solve to get better. Not, oh my God, I can't. Why is this happening to me? Look at what's happening for me. Look at all these new ideas I'm able to come up with, and all these new people I'm able to meet. For instance, through this program, through you, through other people, to better guide me along the way. There have been so many times where I've become very anxious to go one way and put the cart in front of the horse in various ways, but through counsel and listening to those who've already, like you said, been through the stumbles, have really tampered and given me a better path strategically to hit certain barriers or go through certain wickets before others, right? Like there was a point where I was really determined about social media. Well, then I was like, hey, let's work on your actual product, right? Let's work on your product and talking to people before you worry about posting to social media every day. Social media is fine, but if I'm not doing things that are driving me to revenue and driving me to sales and driving my awareness, like that doesn't matter, right? So
Yeah.
it
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. And, it's easy to jump into wanting to, you know, dive into marketing right away, but it is about ensuring that you're creating value for your customer. And
yes,
and in your case, I know one of the challenges is how do you scale a company like this? I love that you're telling the stories, sort of the untold stories, if you will. I love that.
yes.
I think that's a very special mission. How do you build a business around that and scale that?
So I'm a firm, this is a plane that's being built in flight, and I hope months and years from now, I can repeat this. What I'm going to say, my core value, my core belief in this venture, in this effort, is to tell human stories, not not necessarily sell T-shirts. T-shirts, apparel, that's the vehicle for the stories. So what I'm trying to do, because I know people care about stories, even if you say you don't like movies, you don't like music, I don't believe it, right? People do things, they're attracted to stories because whether we admit it or not, we want to hear about other people. We care about other people. When someone says, I like you, they're kind of saying also they're like me, right? So I strongly want this company to continue to be about the human stories of those who've given their lives for others, right? And their families.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love that, and I think it's a very unique way to tell those stories because you're right. There are certainly movies, there are certainly songs, there's poems, there's books, there's a lot of ways that stories are portrayed. And I love that you're finding a unique and creative way to share those stories. And I know as you're talking to me now, I see the emotion in what you're doing. And I think it's that passion and that emotion that can drive you through some of the bigger challenges that you have. Um,
Oh yeah.
I'm guessing that you have some very personal stories of people that you lost, friends and perhaps even family members that are a part of this?
Yeah, it's bittersweet to do the research for this company, right? I take, for instance, when we withdrew from Afghanistan, we lost 12 to 13 young Americans, averaged between the age of 19 to 30, so about 23 on average, right? And just reading their stories, reading their lives, reading and listening to the memorial services, actually talking to one of the fathers of one of the Marines lost, Jared Schmidt. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in, but I feel responsible that I have to, because I could have been one of them easily, right? And not just them, but there are a lot of veterans and first responders, who their family members have passed away as well, right, from past conflicts. And go to Arlington Memorial or any veterans cemetery, and you see a lot of people who gave their lives for others or spent a career in service to others, right? And their stories deserve to be retold because they deserve better. Their families deserve better than we do, and their stories need to be retold for young people and society in general to have better role models of what right looks like when it comes to selfless service. The world we're in now, attention is currency, right? Grabbing someone's attention is currency. We talked about social media. And regardless of how you grab someone's attention, you can garner fame, you can garner wealth. I think people need better examples of how to gain attention, right? By doing the right thing, by being moral, by serving others.
Yeah, what a powerful message, and I absolutely agree. I feel like there are a lot of people today that are, especially young people, but a lot of people that are very unhappy, and I think that unhappiness
Yeah,
stems from not understanding the importance of this service that you're talking about. There's a for lack of a better word, we've become a very selfish, self-centered society,
yeah,
and there are still heroes around us, and that's what you're
yeah,
talking about, is telling those stories of those heroes.
absolutely,
And I think that,
absolutely.
yeah, I think there will be an opportunity for a business in this, and as you pointed out, it's more about a mission for you,
Yeah,
and it's about a sense of purpose. And Dan, it's really interesting to me because I think, in many ways, as hard as this is, it's also a gift because it gives you a sense of purpose where there are so many empty people walking around,
yeah.
that don't have a sense of purpose.
I fully agree. Regardless of what someone believes, I fully believe this with all my heart, that you will not find happiness until you find out that whatever path you have, that you are living for something or someone else more important than you. Like having a purpose that's greater than you, right? Be it a family, be it a loved one, be it others in some way, shape, or fashion. I think that's why we're here, right? Everybody has different God-given talents and gifts, and once you find those, you need to share those with other people. I think that is a major problem, like you said, where selfishness gets promoted, but like fulfillment comes through service, I think, right? Service to others. And that's another reason why entrepreneurship is so cool, because if you want to be a good entrepreneur, you should be serving the customer more than yourself. And if you do those things, you will garner the success, the profits, the revenue, right? So that's just enough, I think, an extension of being a good person. It's another opportunity to serve others through goods and services.
Yeah, I
And
think.
I'm blessed.
Yeah,
I'm blessed to be in this position because, like I said, not for lack of effort, I could have died many times. I'm not special compared to others. I served with people who did some amazing things, but you hit on the heroes are the ones who don't come back often, right? And I owe it to them. I think we all do.
yeah, and there are those that come back very damaged physically and or
Yes,
emotionally, and so life
yes,
for them is very challenging, and we owe them all a lot because
yeah,
we do live in freedom, and this is right as we record this, we're approaching the 4th of July, and and it's a reminder that we are blessed to live in freedom, and that we can't take that lightly because we could lose that anytime.
yeah. I fully agree. Fully agree. Many people have laid down their lives, their fortunes, the blood, sweat, and tears, and continue to serve us and serve others when they swear that oath to uphold and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That means something, and which is apolitical, by the way. Like you don't get to pick the missions you go on when you're in the military and say, hey, I didn't vote for that. That's nice. Shut up and we have a job to do, right? So that's another point of not contention, but a very important point that you bring up that, we forget, I know we're traveling, we forget how different other parts of the world are. And we are blissfully ignorant to some of the things we're able to do, like this right here, freedom of speech. That comes through other through fighting, right? That comes not in a bad way, but fighting for rights that happened long ago.
Yeah, yeah,
And we're not that far removed from the people who laid down their lives to give us this ability and the ability to have businesses and success and fail.
yeah. There are a lot. Just property ownership, which is a requirement for entrepreneurship. We are able.
Yeah.
I not too long ago went to Cuba, and it was
Mm.
fascinating to see the entrepreneurial mindset there among people. It was a completely different environment and set of opportunities, but people found ways to be entrepreneurial, which were just fascinating. And I
Yeah.
think that creative entrepreneurial spirit is among us, but not everywhere in the world do we have that opportunity to practice it like we do here. So we're very blessed. I'm curious, Dan. The military obviously was a big impact in your life, and we've had a number of former military. That we've had a number of veterans in our program, and I know a number of former military folks who are very successful entrepreneurs. So I'm curious about your thoughts. Did the military prepare you in any way for a career in entrepreneurship?
Absolutely. The core values in the military, regardless of what branch you're in, are invaluable to me as a professional, but especially as an entrepreneur. Things like loyalty, duty, respect, honor, integrity, self-sacrifice, personal courage. To name a few, leadership. I think I just went down the Army values, right? They spell out leadership. Not stopping until the job's done, showing up early, staying late, continuing through pain, discomfort, all those things are, maybe different degrees, variations that I'm facing now in the entrepreneurial world versus when I was on active duty and deployed. But there's still a lot of low-hanging fruit, comfortable, wrong choices to make that I know when I'm not feeling like looking at my website development, or I feel this is too hard, right? A little bit of grit and determination, and remembering what I'm going to keeps me going forward, right? So not quitting is a huge thing in the military, and as you know, it's easy to quit. It's easy to quit, but once you quit, it can metastasize, right, and become easy to do. So yes, the military culture and values are highly transferable and important to me as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. As you know, I've done a lot of work with entrepreneurial mindset, and one of the competencies of an entrepreneurial mindset is what I call executing past failure and resilience. And I think as you're talking about some of the things, one of the things that has concerned me is as I've observed students over the past 3 decades or so that I've been teaching, is that there seems to be increasingly a lack of resilience,
Mm.
and I think what you're talking about there, that persistence and executing, and pushing forward, and not, failure not being an option, quite honestly, is what you're referring to as one of the lessons that you learned in the military.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, the way I grew up with sports, but also in the military, as long as you don't quit, you don't fail, right? You take a knee, drink some water, and assess the situation, but you don't quit. You learn from what is holding you back. You regroup and find another way to get to your target, by, with, and through, however you want to say it. However you have to get to your target, your mission, your goal, your successful business, you find a way.
Yeah, yeah.
100% you find a way.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because I just interviewed somebody on the podcast, and he was talking about the very same thing. A lot of different words that he was using, but it was manifesting what you want. And, it's all about
Yeah,
starting with that vision, and then, the universe and your experiences and serendipity, whatever you want to call it,
I
the
totally
path,
agree.
the path starts to open to you. But the other interesting thing I think about what you said is that very rarely does a business look like the original picture that the entrepreneur
Yeah,
has in their mind, and that's what you're talking about, taking a knee. I think assessing the situation and then making changes. You talked earlier about creating value for the customer, and even value for your employees along the way. And I think as long as you keep that, the problem you're trying to solve, your vision, your goal, and creating value, you'll eventually find your way, I think. Um, you know. So
that's the idea.
yeah, yeah. And I know you're very early still in the startup phase, and it's kind of fun because I've gotten people that have, sold their businesses, people that are, have been running companies for many years, and then people that are just getting started. And I think, it's really interesting and fascinating to have all of those different stories. And I, like you, I love the stories, and that's why I do the podcast. And I want the
Yeah, it's
story.
fun.
Yeah, I want the stories of everybody, not just the names that everybody knows, but the stories of especially sort of the surprising successful entrepreneurs that nobody really knows about, but they're doing very brave, amazing things and changing the world in their own way. So I want to talk a little bit about your particular business. If somebody were listening today and they had a story they wanted to tell through through your product, what would they do? How did they go about making this happen and working with you on a project like this?
So, well, there's a few ways. Through my website, verumlegend.com, you can reach out and get on the an email newsletter, and there's also a social media Instagram link, which the handle is at Verum Legend, and I also have a company email, which is verumlegend@protonmail.com. Those are the easiest ways to get a hold, or they can reach out to you and you can and you can line me up with them. But I am anxious and eager to talk with anybody who knows of a veteran or even a first responder close to them who has a story that needs to be told, right? Be it a grandfather who died in World War II, an uncle in Vietnam, God forbid, a son or daughter in the global war on terror, a doctor, a firefighter, a policeman. I want to hear these stories and honor their family member, their loved one, so the world can know about them.
And so what does somebody need to have in order for this to happen? I mean,
Okay.
what kind of information do you need, and how do you help them with that information?
Great question. So if there's someone if they want to honor someone who is in the military, that person's military record will be crucial, right? Pictures are great, letters, emails, photos in uniform are wonderful, but everything to substantiate their military, or, if it's a first responder, police, firefighter record, everything they can get to paint a picture of that person's actual service, to accurately portray the apparel, but also when we include eventually captions, interviews, narratives of the individual, we want it to be accurate and fitting to honor them, because words are great, pictures are great, but if we can get words, pictures, video all matching, even better, right?
Yeah. So if somebody reaches out to you, you can guide them through that process of what you need.
Yes.
And help them.
100%.
Yep. Yep.
Happy to do so. Yes, 100%.
So talk to me a little bit about how you go about producing your product. Do you manufacture these yourself, or do you have a partner, or are you still, working out various methodologies?
So right now I'm doing two different methods. I don't have a solid single manufacturer. So right now I'm either pending the customer. They can provide me the apparel, t-shirts, or jersey, or they can allow me, I will acquire based on what they want, and then I will take said apparel to a printing press, right, and go to that entity with the design. And in some cases, a seamstress to do stitching if doing jerseys.
Right. So you have a number of different partners that you work with to help
Correct.
pull together what's needed. Okay.
Correct.
That sounds great. So what's your vision and goal for this company? I know it's to tell stories, and I know you want to be focused, you want to do this full time, but what do you envision down the road? Like what does 3 years look like to you, and 5 years?
So I'm a big proponent of thinking big, right? Shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you'll land among the stars, sort of thinking. So I envision, and my goal is to make this company to be able to compete with the big boys, with the Under Armours, with the Nikes. However, I am doing my best to keep manufacturing in the U.S., right? Keep manufacturing in the U.S. and to one day, right, growing up, even today, you see celebrities or athletes, people wear, let me back up. You'll see people wearing T-shirts and jerseys of sports players, right? Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, etc. Well, my vision of kind of arriving, or a good, at least one barometer, of success would be having these well-known sports figures, right? NFL, NHL, NBA, celebrities wearing my apparel of people that have died for our sake, right? Died in service for us. So that's kind of one goal I have. I want people to come to my company to wear our apparel to show the true legends, right? There's nothing wrong with athletes. I love sports, but I think the true legends who've died for us deserve to be displayed, right?
Yeah, yeah, what a great vision that is, and even helping remind all of us, I think, of the service of these people and what they've done for us, and kind of enriching us, and what you're talking about really is helping to promote a bit of a cultural change in the way that we look at the world and the way that we celebrate heroes.
Yeah, I believe people also want options. We're living in a time where you can find out about a company pretty quick, what they believe, who their investors are, where they manufacture, how they treat their employees. And I think in this, there's no better time to be an entrepreneur. If you want to align your values in a certain way and let it be known, then I think you build it, they will come, right?
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I want to be a place where people come to and they can know, hey, that's a company I'm proud to give my my money to. I know what they're about. I know why they exist. I don't have to worry about nefarious activity or being under the thumb of an oppressive regime where manufacturing takes place.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree with you. I do believe people want options, I'm excited to see what you can do with this. So, if somebody is listening to this and they like your mission and your vision, what do you need? I mean, what kind of help do you need? Because I think there are a lot of people that would love to help you, and you may not even know all the answers to this yet. But what do you, if you had a chance to pitch, and for help, what would it be? What do you need?
Oh boy, just careful what you wish for. Like many entrepreneurs, like there's a magazine rack of issues I could fill, right? Obviously, funding is always an issue, right? I'm bootstrapping this. Um, I don't want to blindly give up equity just for a quick fix, right? I'm not into the quick dopamine. I'm long-term thinking, but right now I need to perfect my process of manufacturing, my process of bringing the product in an efficient way from manufacturing to online sales. Those are some of my friction points now. I'm blessed to have people close to me, my girlfriend and her sister, to help with product design, graphic design, things like that. But my issues, again, I'm trying to perfect and refine my manufacturing and my online experience / website for customers to have the best experience possible.
So it sounds like some coaching, mentoring, even some smart
Yeah.
money would be
Yeah,
helpful along there.
potentially.
Yeah,
Yeah.
potentially. So it's always kind of scary at this stage because there have been companies that have failed because they got too much business too soon before they could get their manufacturing up
Yeah.
and running. So I understand it's there's always a sense of urgency for entrepreneurs, but at the same time It sounds like you're building a company for the long run, and it sounds like, partnerships, coaches, mentors, people who can help you move this along or where you're at right now. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So if there was, so if you had one question to ask an expert right now, what would be that one question?
Mm. Oh, wow. What would you do given my phase of business? What would your focus and next steps be
Okay, that's a
if
great
you
question.
were in my shoes?
Yeah, yeah. And I can answer. I think what I would say is I think it would be to surround myself with a few really smart, successful people that can help guide me.
Yeah.
Because there are going to be a lot of questions along the way, and I think that, I used to ask entrepreneurs the question. Back when Oprah had her show, and getting on Oprah meant that your business was going to be a success. I used to say,
Yeah.
who's your Oprah? What's your Oprah? And
Oh, wow.
so it's, in my mind, it's kind of, can you figure out what's that one thing that's going to make all the difference? And, I think there's a lot of different ways that question can go, but maybe something for you
Yeah.
to think about as you go
Oh,
through.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. It's funny you bring that up because I've been strategizing my Oprah in different avenues for exponential awareness, right? So that's interesting. I have some ideas. I'll run them by you maybe.
Yeah, yeah, we can certainly talk about that. Well, Dan, this has been a great conversation. I'm looking forward to having you back on the N Factor down the road when
Yes.
when you've reached a lot of these goals, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you do. Again, I think you've got a great story. And one more time, where can our listeners connect with you, find you? Maybe even work with you on honoring a loved one in their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can reach me, follow me on Instagram at Verum Legend, VERUM Legend. I have a website that's under construction, but you can get on the newsletter and see all the other ways to reach out to me at verumlegend.com. Also, my email, verumlegend@protonmail.com.
Dan, thank you for joining me, and good luck with with your business and your vision for this company.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to telling you more as I grow. And there's no better place to learn about entrepreneurship, best practices, hearing inspirational stories than the N Factor. Tune in.
Thank you for the plug. And thank you for joining me.
Very welcome.
If you enjoyed this episode and would like to learn more about entrepreneurship, we would love it if you hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of N Factor.